Hi guitarlings, I'm Gray at Hub Guitar. Today we're here to do a solo guitar arrangement of the Blarney Pilgrim. Alright, before we start, this is an altered tuning, so the strings are tuned to C, G, D, G, A, D, and I have a capo on the 2nd fret, but that's optional. So I'm going to start at measure 1 with the C chord. I'm going to play the open 6th and 3rd strings together, hammer on to the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and pull back off. Then I'm going to pluck the 5th fret and the open, so this is the 5th fret of the 4th string, and the open 6th string, and I'm doing that with my 3rd finger so that when I slide up to 7, it's easy to reach the 5th fret of the 3rd string with my index finger. For measure 2, I'm going to play the open 5th and 1st. That's a quarter note, da, da, do, da, da, da. So make sure that you're feeling the duple time. This is a jig, so there's 2 primary beats per measure, and they're each divided into 3. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, like that. For measure 3, there's this kind of crazy thing here. So I'm just playing the 6th string and the 2nd fret of the 1st string, and after that I'm hammering to 3, pulling to 2, and pulling to open. And then I quickly follow that with the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, which I also tend to hammer on, just so that I can quickly get to my destination. So if you're having trouble with those kinds of things, just slow it down. I don't think there's a single good guitar player alive today who didn't spend a great deal of time just kind of sitting there, working their way through these things. Take a lot of work, but it's worth it, especially for hammer-ons and pull-offs, because they're basically fundamental techniques, so you need them in all styles. For the second half of measure 3, I'm going to the 4th fret of the big string. So I used my middle finger there so that I could reach the 3rd fret of the 2nd string easily with my index. For measure 4, I've got my 3rd finger on the 5th fret of the 6th string and my index finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. I lift up the index, follow that with an open 1st string, and then switch to my index to the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, like that, to finish it out. Measures 5 and 6 are the same as measures 1 and 2. So that's just a repeat, and then we're going on to measure 7. So we've kind of dealt with that before in measure 3, but it's index finger on the 2nd fret with the open 6th string. You can pull off or just play the open 1st string. And then you'll notice that I want to put my 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string so that I can quickly get to this chord shape that's coming up. This is an F chord. So if I already have my 3rd finger there, it's really convenient, because then I can get my middle finger on the 3rd fret of the 4th string and my index finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, play my chord, and I can keep going with my melody, so that 3rd fret never lifted up until the end of the measure. And then for measure 8, I'm going to a G chord, so I've got 3rd fret and open G, followed by 5th fret of the 4th string. And I'm going to use my index finger there just because I want to prepare for the shift in the next section where I'm going to go to the bar chord here, and I kind of want to have my index finger in that area. Alright, so let's hear measures 1 through 8 all together. That brings us to measure 9, where we're going to do a half bar across strings 1, 2, and 3 with our index finger to get that C sus2 chord. Then we can fret the 7th fret and come back to the 5th fret quite easily to our bar. And then for the second beat of measure 9, it it turns into a C major chord. So I just go from here to get my third finger on the 7th fret of the high E string and back, and then I put my third finger onto the 7th fret of the 2nd string and pluck my way through that chord. For measure 10, I'm going to play a couple open strings, 3rd fret of the 2nd string, open 1st string. Notice that I wrote that you should put your 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. You could actually do your 4th finger either way, because there's a bar chord coming here, and the bar chord includes that note at the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, so you've got to use a finger that will enable you to do that. I guess you could also do it with your middle finger, but the point is you definitely couldn't do it with your index finger, because you'd be doubling your work. You'd have to come back and have another finger come back to that 3rd fret of the 2nd string. So try to find a fingering that lets you do that smoothly. I like to use my 3rd or 4th finger for that. And I like to practice weird or difficult transitions just by repeating a measure over and over again. The next measure, 11, is something we've encountered before, and 12 is pretty simple. Now for measure 13, we're climbing up the neck to 10 and coming down to 7, and then we're playing 5th fret. So of course I like to use 3 different fingers for the 2nd half of 13. So I'm going pinky to index to middle. Now something happens in measure 14 which is kind of similar to before, where we're playing the 1st fret of the 5th string and the open 1st string, and then the finger that we put down here on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string has to be able to persist into the bar chord that's coming. So that can be your 3rd finger, or it can be your 4th finger. You know, try both. There's really no harm in being able to do something multiple ways. So you're trying to practice having the flexibility to switch from that chord and to slide into this bar without interrupting the note on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, because that kind of glues it together. Measure 15 is pretty simple. And then measure 16, we've got an F chord going to a C chord. So I'm putting my 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, index finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and my other finger on the 3rd fret there of the 4th string. Follow that through with an open E string, repeat the note there on the 3rd fret, and then when I go to the C chord, I still have that finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, but I just move my index finger to the 2nd fret of the 4th string. So little things like that, especially cadences, practice them over and over again. You know, you want to be able to hear the individual voices of the notes inside of these chords. That's what helps them to sing. It's like you're hearing 4 angelic singers in a beautiful choir. And each of these strings are 4 different people singing a note. And then when I play the next chord, that's the same 4 people moving to different notes. And that really ties it together. So balancing the volume between those 2 chord transitions is really helpful to bring that out. If one of the notes is too loud, it will kind of overpower the rest of the notes. So let's hear that all together. Alright, so that brings us to measure 17. From here on, it's actually pretty simple. A couple open strings, more open strings, little melody forming. You can do a lot of pull-offs and hammer-ons here. Basically, anytime you have 2 notes or 3 notes on the same string, you can connect them with hammer-ons and pull-offs. So for measure 22, for example, you can do a hammer-on. You can do slides. You know, it's kind of up to you to decide how you want to interpret it. Measure 23, we're going to an A minor chord, so I need a couple fingers there on the 2nd frets. And I'm going to that familiar F chord. So I can put my index finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string, and I can put my middle finger on the 2nd fret of the 1st string, pull that up, and then get my third finger on the third fret of the second string, and then keep that there as I go into the F chord. Pull it up. So that's pretty simple. Let's hear it all together. Alright, so that's it for the Blarney Pilgrim. Practice it slowly and try to get it up to speed. Pay careful attention to the fingerings, and don't take it too fast. I hope you enjoyed the lesson, and thank you so much for watching.